View Radio with Brandon House.
Welcome, glad you're with us today. I woke up last night in the middle of the night several times thinking about what is going on in our country and how we have become like frogs in the proverbial pot that is slowly increased with heat, and we're unbeknownst to us that we are cooking. I went back to sleep only to wake back up again with, and I don't know how many of you guys do this, you keep working in your sleep. I have written a lot of books. I've written a lot of chapters of books, outlines of TV shows or radio shows in my sleep. And it's not like you're not really asleep, but you're asleep. And you wake up and you're like, come on, the brain, you need to turn off. I got to get some rest here. But you can't turn your brain off. And you go back to sleep, and yet you're really not asleep because your brain is telling you stuff. I wonder if any of you guys ever have that. Well, I kept waking up last night with these very specific thoughts of how it is the average American, not this audience, the average American is completely oblivious to really what is happening in our country. Because A, they don't care. They are so obsessed with sports and entertainment. They don't read. They don't want to read. They don't want to learn about history. They don't want to hear anything negative. So they are deliberately ignorant people. A nation of fools, vain, useless, futile in their thinking. And then those who do see what's happening don't understand the context of everything. They see everything, as Francis Schaeffer said, in bits and pieces, but they don't see the big picture of what's happening. They know something's not right. Some of them, a percentage of Americans know something is not right. And I have watched people say this on social media that my wife will show me. She will follow some social media influencers that are into cooking and gardening and decorating. These are apolitical people. People that by their own admission do not follow politics. They are not political, and they don't speak about politics. They want the biggest audience they can have for their social media platform, and they deliberately don't talk about politics. And some of them don't seem to have any interest, openly state, I'm not political, I just don't follow. But some of them in the last 12 months have begun posting videos about how they are preparing gardens. They're canning food. They're prepping for the first time ever in their life because, here's what they say, something just doesn't feel right. Something is off. I don't understand all of the things that I see happening, but I see things that are happening that cause me to know something's not right. And I don't know how to discern it. I don't know what to make of it. But I know that for me and my family, I need to get ready for whatever it is that might be coming. And so as I woke up last night, several times throughout the night, in my mind was that Americans have no clue what's coming. They don't see the big picture. They don't see these individual pieces. So first thing this morning, I awoke and I began to write down those steps that kept running through my mind in my sleep. Now, some of these things are coming to me in my mind because I've spent decades studying this. 36 years I've been doing this now. Many of these steps I'm going to mention, I've talked about in this broadcast. They have been mentioned in historical documents. They have been presented in my documentary, Brainwashed America Part 1, Brainwashed America Part 2, Siege, Sabotage. But I wanted to put down for you what is happening in our country. And I think our conversation yesterday about the clash between generations, where the baby boomers are being set up to be the people that are somehow individuals that had an unfair advantage, which is not true. They are somehow the ones that are now going to be the drain on society with their Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, that kind of thing. They have gotten wealth in a way that somehow is not acceptable due to inflation, as though that's their fault. But there's this deliberate pitting of one generation against another. We know that they have pitted the globalists, the cultural Marxists. They have pitted people groups against each other, right? They have used racism as a divide. They're always looking for something to divide the nation. What was it, Abraham Lincoln that said, a nation divided against itself cannot stand? They're always looking for a wedge. They're always looking to divide for the purpose of chaos, to destroy national unity and cohesion. And this is being done by enemies foreign and domestic. And I believe that we are now, of course, also seeing a great divide. And I know I'm probably going to touch really close to home here with a few of you, maybe a lot of you. We're seeing a great divide between grown adults and their parents. A big divide between grown children. I'm talking children in their 30s, 40s, 50s. A great divide between grown adult children and their parents. In the last 24 hours, I've received emails from several people, many people, about my conversation yesterday and the night before related to this topic of blaming boomers, what young people today think, why they're discouraged, why they don't even want to hear our solutions because they think we were part of the problem. And I had more than one parent, senior citizen, email me saying, your program helped me because now I realize why it is that oftentimes my grown child and I seem to be a couple degrees off from each other. No matter how I try to explain the situation, we're always a couple degrees off. And now I am seeing from your conversation with Mark Mitchell the other night, what it is his polling is showing that young people today believe or have been taught, whether it's real or perceived. Perception is often reality for the individual. That's the problem with propaganda. Perception becomes reality, not reality. I also received emails from people saying, listening to your programs, I now realize that my kids, my grown children, are not only opposed to me because of my Christianity, and I knew they were. I knew my grown children were opposed to me because of my conservative Christian worldview. I knew they were opposed to me because of that. But now I'm understanding that there is a generation that is being taught to hate their parents. There's a generation of grown adults that are being taught, and it's coming, a lot of it through social media, by the way. I have also seen some social media videos on how it is now justifiable to completely cut off your parents. That if you find your parents to be toxic, then you are not to be shamed for cutting your parents off. That your parents, if they are toxic people, if they have been people that have been creating emotional stress, anxiety, guilt, manipulation on you, you're justifiable in cutting them off. And don't let anyone tell you you're the bad person. Now, there are some parents that can be abusive, emotionally, manipulative, selfish, and it is very toxic. But these kind of videos that are rolling around, and I've seen them, are going out there, and they're more than one that I've seen, multiple videos out on social media encouraging people, grown adults, to cut off the relationship with their parents. But wait a minute, I want to know, what do you mean by your parents are toxic, or they are manipulative, or they're negative? I want to know, what do you mean by that? See, it's important to ask questions. You can't ask questions, I guess, of a social media speech going around by various people. But what do you mean by that? Oh, because your parents are Christians, because your parents try to speak truth into your life. Oh, because your parents warn you about consequences of doing this or doing that, and they want you to make good decisions, or they're trying to protect their grandchildren and they're encouraging you to be careful with this or be careful with that. That now is perceived as what? Toxic? Negative? Manipulative? See, I'm not denying that there aren't some parents that you eventually can't really have much of a relationship with because of their behavior. Maybe it's because of substance abuse and other things. Maybe there's been a past of physical abuse. Maybe there's been a past of sexual abuse. But this would be, I would think, a rather small percentage. This is not the norm. So when these adults are on social media talking about and making these videos that people are sending all over the place about how it's time to cut off your parents, have nothing to do with it, and don't make me out to be the bad person, it's them. This seems to me to fit in with a narrative that's already going. And what is so negative about the parent, I'd like to know, is it because they actually are conservative Christians? Because after all, isn't that what we're told? I quote it all the time. The cultural Marxists, the Frankfurt School, the source of all suffering and oppression is what? Christianity and capitalism. And now we have this, we've got to get rid of the olds. I talked last week about the olds. During the time of Mao, the Little Red Book, the four olds, all the things they had to get rid of, the old lies. The old lies about history, religion, culture. So many of these lies. And this is kind of where we're at today. Let's create a wedge. It's very similar to what was going on with Maria von Trapp of the von Trapp family, where she writes about being in a school assembly and the Nazis told them, forget about your parents. They're old-fashioned. They will never understand. You are the future. You are the hope of the Reich. Forget about your parents. It reminds me of the documentary Guiding Hand by a gentleman I worked with for several years, and he produced a documentary on building Hillary Clinton's governor school out of Arkansas when he was governor. And I quote it in, I believe, my third book in 1995, Reclaiming a Nation at Risk, where the students were brought to the governor's school in Arkansas. They would weed out what they thought were the best and the brightest to train them to be elite thinkers, to groom them to be leaders for the next generation in state and local government and maybe federal government. And they were told, according to even one of the guys who had been a teacher who came out, was on the documentary, his first name was Mark, and he said that these students were told, you have been entertained to thought that your parents cannot understand. Your parents, your pastor, they will never understand what you have been taught here. You have been entertained a thought they cannot comprehend. So when I come back, I want to go through the list I woke up this morning and started making, explain to you just how dire the situation is for the Republic. Don't go away.
News is moving faster than ever, and so are we. Worldview Tube brings you 24/7 live stream coverage and now real-time alerts when it matters most. Once you have the Worldview Tube app installed, exit the app and navigate your way to Settings. In Settings, locate the tab labeled Notifications. Select the Notifications tab. Scroll down until you locate the Worldview Tube app icon. Select the tab. And here, you can turn on and customize your notification experience for the Worldview Tube app. News doesn't wait, and neither should you. Turn on push notifications to stay informed. Every headline as it happens.
You're watching Worldview Tube, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brannon House.
All right, welcome back. Glad you're with us. Worldview Radio, our website, worldviewradio.com. I would highly urge you to go to worldviewtube.com Last night I did, I don't know, maybe 45 minutes with the 3 young guys in the control room. An interview with the 3 young guys in the control room last night. I began to shoot questions at them. I've never had the 3 guys in the control room on the broadcast like that. We went for 45 minutes. It wasn't rehearsed. I didn't say, here are the questions I'm going to ask. None of it was rehearsed. It was totally a natural conversation about young people today, their age group, their demographic, what they believe. It was an hour and a half. Okay, I thought it was 45 minutes. Wow. Well, we were having a very good time then. Time flies when you're having fun. And we were having a lot of fun talking about, however, very serious things. And the results we received from that too were explosive. Many people saying, can you do that once a week? Can you talk to those 20-somethings once a week? Because we're trying to understand this generation, because these are my kids. These are my grandkids. You might want to watch it. worldviewtube.com. Now, I want to go through the list. So I kept waking up last night over and over with all of this running through my mind, almost like a dream. I was asleep and I was dreaming, but I would wake up and I'd like, wait, this is a weird dream. Because I'm dreaming in actual reality of facts. The facts that I'm talking about to myself in my head, in my dream, are real. Those are real historical facts. I thought, that's weird. I went back to sleep. The dream started over again. And this happened 3 or 4 times. I'm like, and I finally woke up, I'm like, why am I dreaming like this? So I got up this morning and I made a list, because the basic, and I'm not giving credence to dream. Oh, I had a dream. I'm just telling you, I've done this, and I've talked about this on the air for years, I think, several times, that I have a hard time shutting my mind off when I go to sleep. Very, very common that I will compose radio shows and TV shows and chapters and books and articles in my sleep. That is not uncommon for me. Your brain just keeps working, I guess. And I guess some people, I have a hard time turning the brain off and getting rest, but somehow I'm able to do it and wake up pretty refreshed, even though apparently I was still working. But the theme, again, was that there's something big coming and people don't understand all of the warning signs around them. So I made a list. You don't have to show it, guys. I'll just read it. I typed it out for myself. They're not in any particular order, but I think you're going to recognize some of them as things I've covered before. But I want to give you all the warning signs that tell us we are in very big trouble. Now, I'm not giving you this list so that you can worry or wring your hands or fret. I'm not doing that. I'm doing this because part of my job as a watchman is to warn people. The Bible says that a righteous man sees danger and takes refuge or makes preparations, but the fool ignores it and suffers for it. I'm not giving you this list to scare you. I'm giving you this list to help you understand, if you don't, but to help you explain it to others. There are plenty of warning signs. We're going into an historic situation of which many people are not aware. I do think also when God judges a nation, he gives warning. I don't know if the Lord has laid this on my heart to do this broadcast, to give warning to you, listening friend. Because oftentimes before God judges a nation, he gives warning. And maybe there is the warning here to prepare the best you can. But here's the list. Open borders and mass uncontrolled immigration policies to alter demographics, strain public resources, create voting blocs dependent on government, and enable infiltration by foreign agents. Is that going on? Of course it is. Subversion and demoralization of law enforcement and military. Subversion, penetrating them. How many of you have seen sheriffs on video the last few weeks saying, we're going to fight ICE, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do that? And those are obviously the progressive Marxist liberals that have penetrated law enforcement. So subversion and demoralization of law enforcement and military. Infiltration and weakening of churches and religious institutions to promote Marxianity. You guys know I kind of coined that phrase with my 2018 book, The Mixture of Marxism with Christianity, for an emphasis on the material over the spiritual. Funding and empowerment of non-government organizations and public-private partnerships, that's big government, big business, that undermine and destroy constitutional order and protections with no public accountability in order to stop their crimes and advancement. No public accountability, no transparency, so we the people can stop their unconstitutional advancement. Foreign enemy states with terrorist proxies in the U.S. Foreign enemy states with terrorist proxies in the U.S. We all know that's true. Foreign enemy states funding street riots, protest, and the discrediting of law and order. Foreign enemy states funding street riots, protest, and discrediting of law. Now, by the way, all of these signs, and I'm going to keep going, but I want you to understand all of these signs, you can validate every one of them by just simply doing quick searches on the internet for the news stories that back them up. We all know they're in the hundreds, thousands over the last few years, particularly since 2020. But all of these signs are pointing to a coming big event. This is not going to be something that is contained, tapped down, because it is so infiltrated local law enforcement at some levels, sheriff departments, local, state, federal agencies, institutions, the courts. You're not just going to all of a sudden turn this off. Foreign enemy states funding propaganda and brainwashing in American colleges and universities. What are we told now? $40 billion just from Qatar alone to infiltrate our colleges with their agenda. That's just one government, we're told. Infiltration of teachers' unions, foundations, and teacher training institutions to hijack elementary and secondary curriculum production. That's been going on since at least the 1930s. It's in part 3 of my documentary, Brainwashed America, I'm working on. Foreign enemy states manipulating elections to remove trust in elections and government institutions. We know that's going on. We've had people at highest levels of the Trump administration in the first term, like the DNI, Director of National Intelligence, John Ratcliffe, warning that foreign governments were interfering in our elections. China, particularly, I think, is the one he named in his report. But what that does is it also removes the trust in elections. So therefore, the people lose hope that we can rectify this problem through the ballot box. And when they are led to believe the elections no longer matter, then that frustration is used to breed conflict. And we know the change comes from the conflict, said Saul Alinsky. Capture of courts and the justice system to create two-tiered systems that protects lawlessness, insurrectionists, breeds distrust and hopelessness, and centralizes power within the federal government. Is that not what's happening? Capture of the courts and the justice system to create a two-tiered system that protects lawlessness, the insurrectionist, breeds distrust and hopelessness, and centralizes power within the federal government. When the states try to rise up and assert their 10th Amendment and slap back the government, federal government, it doesn't work so well anymore, does it? When the president tries to carry out legal constitutional responsibilities, federal judges shut him down. That's because the enemies have infiltrated the institutions, the long march through the institutions. Foreign enemy states with influence over media, media personalities, and social media influencers. Foreign enemy states that have captured and compromised elected officials, This is done, as we know, through either money or sex and videotapes. And of course, that's all over the place right now with all the release of the latest Epstein files. Foreign enemy states that have captured and compromised elected officials. It also, of course, can be not just foreign, but domestic shadow governments that do this. The public discrediting of elected officials as unworthy of moral and ethical respect. Did you hear that one? The public discrediting of elected officials as unworthy of moral and ethical respect. These are all some of the things that were running through my mind last night as I kept waking up, and I don't know why. And don't you find it interesting that and I'm not done with my list, with all of the things that are happening that I've just listed off, all of these things that are occurring right now with the disintegration of the system, and the system is what they call the American Republic, with their goal of disintegrating the system, build back better. That means destroy the system, and then they're going to rebuild it. With all of these things going on, now is when we have the massive release of so many files of Epstein. And some of the things we're seeing are very, very troubling. But I have folks that are saying this is nothing compared to what they have. They haven't even released anywhere near some of the most troubling details. But don't you find it ironic that in a time where all these other things are going on, we now have discrediting of elected officials, making it such that they are deemed to be unworthy of any moral or ethical respect or authority? You know, this was one of the goals of the KGB. You can go back and read some of the former KGB members and leaders that defected and came to America to warn America. And they were largely, by the way, ignored by our intelligence community. That's why they went public. That's why they wrote books. They openly stated that. But a couple of them warned. Right before your nation is attacked, there will be the release of pictures and maybe videos of major leaders in order to discredit any moral or ethical respect of your national leaders, to leave your nation reeling with no perceived leadership or leadership that's not worthy of following. Now, indeed, they may not be worthy of following, but again, how do you lead a nation? How does a nation move forward when there is nothing but factions fighting each other and no legitimate leadership? That's by design. Isn't it ironic that now we have Bill and Hillary Clinton supposedly going to testify February, I think, 26th and 27th on Epstein, I'm reading now. Do you guys find the timing of all this coincidental? I don't. I'm going to continue my list, and then I'm going to open the phone lines. And of course, this will be put back up at worldviewtube.com for you to share. It'll go away.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. Is the government tracking you? Do they have access to all your data? Well, if you go to worldviewtalk.com, you'll find out about a cell phone company that, well, does not store your data. They don't do that. This is what they're known for. They don't store your data. You have privacy. You're not being tracked. That's why a lot of folks are turning to worldviewtalk.com. You'll find their prices are very competitive. All the details are there at worldviewtalk.com. Again, worldviewtalk.com. Oh, while you're there, not only do they have cell phones that aren't tracking you, you can find out about how to get a satellite phone. Should the whole system go down and you want to communicate with a family member or a loved one, you might want to have a satellite phone. Or how about their solar generators? They have great solar generators. Check them all out right now. Worldviewtalk.com, worldviewtalk.com.
welcome back. Glad you're with us. Worldview Radio, website worldviewradio.com. Did you guys just all walk out of the control room for a minute? Did everybody just walk out of the control room for a minute? All of a sudden, I couldn't get a hold of anybody. I finished up. Oh, by the way, gold is back up now. Gold is back up to, what is it, guys? $4,900, over $4,900 an ounce. I just saw it there for a moment. Over $4,900 an ounce. Silver is over $84 an ounce. So it's popped back up. It's all popped back up again. Now, again, when gold and silver are doing this, folks, and these are historical numbers we've been at the last week or so, and there was a massive pullback and now it's gaining again. You do understand that all of this is happening in the same time. Any two or three of these things happening should cause people in the nation, the thinkers, to sit up and go, these are all warning signs. These are bigger signs of what's going on behind the curtain. These are trimmers. These are trimmers forecasting an earthquake. Maybe an earthquake that creates a tsunami. But the fact you have all of these things happening now at the same time should cause thinking people to understand what's really going on, what we're moving into. And I don't believe it's reversible. The next on my list for open the phone lines is the public discrediting. I mentioned the public discrediting of elected officials unworthy of moral and ethical respect. That's where we stop. The attack on the U.S. dollar and American economy through numerous strategic methods. And that's, of course, is why we're watching gold and silver do what they're doing, because of what the dollar's doing. Now, some of it is by design, because President Trump wants a weaker dollar to encourage exports, et cetera. But we also have a war on the dollar from the BRICS banking system, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and the other nations that have joined in. We also have been a nation that has been involved in so many things we shouldn't have been involved in. So we've expanded our balance sheet as a nation and debased our currency. And this, again, of course, instead of being blamed on the Federal Reserve, instead of being blamed on lawmakers, it's blamed on the baby boomers in part now. It's their fault. They're the problem. Well, that's interesting. And that's in my list. So the attack on the U.S. dollar and American economy through numerous strategic methods, manufactured hostility between generations. I started out the broadcast with that, didn't I? Manufactured hostility between generations. Manufactured hostility between people groups. I use the word people groups instead of races because there's only one race, the human race. We're of one blood, but there are various people groups. And of course, we could add that with the rise of anti-Semitism, the rise of racism, the talk by people flooding the zone now for young people, such as Nick Fuentes, that, you know, if we could just get rid of the blacks and the Jews, we would have paradise. He's actually said that, hasn't he, guys? Yeah, we have the videos. Maybe not a direct quote, but a fair paraphrase. This kind of talk that is going viral, and the attack on the Jews and the continued racial strife is by design. Whether those individuals know what they're doing, whether they're being paid to do that, I have no idea. And they're not the only ones, and it was going on long before them. And there were people like the man who wrote Color, Communism, and Common Sense, Manning Johnson, Color, Communism, and Common Sense back in the early 50s, who was at one time the highest ranking black communist in America, flipped against the communist, wrote that book in the early 50s, Color, Communism, and Common Sense. You'll find like 2 or 3 TV shows I did on it in the vault, worldviewtube.com/vault. And that since at least the 1917s, the former Soviet Union was bringing black Americans into the Soviet Union to train them and then send them back in to create this strife among people groups. The drastic and violent increase in anti-Semitism to create a perceived Jewish problem in order to distract from the Islamic revolution occurring in America. The drastic and violent increase in anti-Semitism to create a perceived Jewish problem in order to distract from the Islamic revolution occurring in America. The young guys in the control room last night regarding working for this organization, and would they understand the threat of Islam today if they did not work for this organization and hear and produce these radio and TV shows every day? And the common theme was, no, I wouldn't understand what Islam was doing and how it was doing it. And then I asked, do you think you could buy the lies of the anti-Semites? Very possibly I could, yes. And one of the guys said, and I think the rise of the anti-Semitism, and let's blame the Jews, is great cover for the Islamists. Well, that's exactly what we've been saying, isn't it? And he's been paying attention. Sexualization of children to destroy their conscience, self-will, and belief in God. Sexualization of children to destroy their conscience, their moral compass, if you will, their self-will, so they will follow the group, the herd mentality, do whatever they're told by whoever now is the one that has brainwashed them and subdued them, but certainly to also destroy any belief and faith in God, because why would God allow this to happen to me? Therefore, God is not on my side. God must hate me. Destruction of the family unit in order to destroy the incubator for passing on the values that maintain the republic. One of the things you don't want is grandparents influencing their grandchildren. Did you understand what I just heard? What I just said? Did you hear what I just said? You do not want grandparents influencing their grandchildren with old values. We have to do away with the old lies. That's what they say. That's Maoism. We have to do away with the old culture, the old values, create a strife between generations, and those grown children are not likely going to be bringing those children of theirs around their parents, the grandparents, and therefore there is not a passing on of family values, traditional values that make strong the republic. Destroy the family unit and destroy it not only in your immediate family, but destroy it generationally. The use of social media algorithms in order to reinforce division, hatred, hopelessness, dehumanization, nihilism, the belief that life has no ultimate meaning, hedonism, all there is pleasure, and violence. And if you get on a certain thread within the algorithm, it is going to throw you videos that reinforce whatever it is that you are searching out or watching. So if you hate the police, it will throw you videos after videos after videos of the police doing what appear to be, and in some cases, really unlawful and stupid things. And of course, that's because we've largely destroyed our police departments with DEI, cultural Marxism, Black Lives Matter, community policing. So the good guys and good gals have left, and we're left scraping the barrel, and you hire people, put them on the street who are not mentally and psychologically equipped to even be out there. And then they do dumb things that's on video. And then those videos are used on social media to reinforce the narrative. But if you're watching the videos on hating the police or hating Christians or hating the Jews, you're going to be thrown that algorithm over and over. And you're going to be led to believe this is everywhere. Most people believe these things. No, what they don't realize is that this is an algorithm throwing that to you. Many people on social media never seen those kind of videos. Their algorithm isn't programmed to do that. I'm going to open the phone lines up before I get to my last few, so you're ready to go when I'm done. 1-800-347-9829. Your thoughts, your comments, your questions. 1-800-347-9829. 1-800-347-9829. Your comments on today or yesterday. Make them fast, and I'll roll through as many calls as I can. Get online right now because I'm about to go to the calls. 1-800-347-9829. 1-800-347-9829. Here's my rest of my list. The creation of exhaustion, fear, anxiety, and perpetual crisis that results in a herd mentality. This sets the stage for mass adjustability and surrender of civil rights and liberties for the promise of safety, protection, and a return of normalcy. You guys know we're now getting reports of another biological lab found in a garage in Las Vegas. What is the deep state planning? What are the enemy's foreign and domestic planning? What do they need to disrupt society, to create fear, to cause people to be willing to surrender their liberties and freedom for protection? Again, don't you find it interesting that right now, with all that President Trump is trying to do on a positive, there's some things I wish he wasn't doing, but on the positive side of things he is trying to do, you notice we have now today the finding of another biological lab in some garage in Vegas. Attack of leaders through attack of leaders. That'd be people like you, the leaders. Attack of leaders through intimidation, threats, physical attacks, assassinations, lawfare, deplatforming, debanking, and shadow banning in order to eliminate and neutralize leaders and discourage their replacement. Creation of hate crime laws that criminalize free speech, empowers a network of snitches and informants in order to create division and discourage the organization of resistance among citizens. We saw that during COVID. They openly were bragging about their snitching hotlines. This is what hate crime laws will do. Turning medical institutions and medical care into an instrument for radical politicalization, dehumanization, terrorizing, and elimination of political, cultural, and religious opposition. And we're watching videos of doctors, nurses, anesthesiologists saying things on social media and videos about what they think of conservatives and Christians or law enforcement. A hijacking of language and words to use for the purpose of weaponization against patriots and Christians, for the purpose of marginalizing, characterizing, and terrorizing them. Change the words. Domestic terrorist, racist, Islamophobic, whatever you need to marginalize, characterize, and then legalize, justify the terrorizing of conservatives, Christians, patriots. 1-800-347-9829. 1-800-347-9829. Again, 1-800-347-9829. We get back. We're going to go to Jim, line 1. We're going to go to Wayne in South Dakota, line 2. Barb is line 3. 1-800-347-9829. And I would urge you when we put this online to share it far and wide, because the signs are all there, folks. Something's coming, and this is not something that one political administration can fix. It's generational, and it's embedded at the highest levels. Are you ready? We'll be right back.
Introducing the Sentry Wellness System, the ultimate under-sink water treatment solution designed with you in mind. Say goodbye to harmful toxins and hello to water enriched with essential nutrients like calcium and magnesium. Enjoy the benefits of increased pH for on-demand alkalinity. All from a zero-waste system that fits seamlessly into your home. Installation is a breeze, taking just 15 minutes, so you can have clean, healthy, great-tasting water straight from your tap. Perfect for apartments, homes, rentals, and even RVs. Elevate your hydration and well-being with the Sentry Wellness System, because you deserve the best in every drop.
Sentry H2O. Tap into wellness.
You're watching Worldview 2, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brannon House.
All right, stay tuned for Crosstalk coming up at the top of the hour. Jim Schneider on vcy.org. If you're not on one of their terrestrial stations right now, you'll find them at vcy.org, America's original Christian talk program since the 1970s. Let's go right away to the calls. 1-800-347-9829. Jim, line one. Jim, I know you tried getting in yesterday, so thank you for calling back today, Jim.
Thank you, Brandon, so much for your ministry and this program. It's just a great way to get informed and to share our thoughts as well. It's funny you should mention about getting these thoughts in your sleep. That happens to me all the time. Early in the morning, I've got pages of stuff I've written down and ideas that I share. Yeah, it's got to be a God thing. I don't know what else.
I don't either. I'm glad to know I'm not the only one. Because I'm like, what is going on here? I've done this for years. Why?
That's a good time because you're not distracted by anything else.
Well, that's true.
You know? So yeah, I've got pages of stuff that I wish I could share more, but at any rate, I also wanted to say that I have 4 grown children. They were all raised in a Christian home. One of them still living with us, but the oldest is 35, just turned 35, and they've 3 of them gone astray. But I just love on them, and I just stay connected with them, show them the love of Christ, show them that you care, and just pray that if the Bible says train them up in the way they should go, and when they're old they won't depart from it. So that's my hope and prayer. And I just be a blessing as much as I can. And as far as somebody that could be a role model for our youth, it would be Nick Shirley. I've heard him say that he lives a clean, moral life, and nobody has anything against him. They can't hold it. They can't blackmail him for anything because there's nothing any dirt that they can't got on him. And he's out there exposing what's going on in our country. So
he sure is. Jim, thank you for the call, and I like your response. How you're just continuing to love on your kids. That's very, very important. Wayne, line 2 in South Dakota. Hi, Wayne. What's on your mind today, Wayne?
Hi, Brandon. Thanks for giving me a moment on the soapbox here. I agree, like what you're saying about the borders. Okay, 15 million, probably more. If 1% of the people that came across the border are anything close to military-trained operatives, take out power grids, water, whatever, we're in a world of hurt, will be.
You're 100% right.
And secondly, what took 19 of them to pull off 9/11? So, we're the dominoes are getting set up. And another thing that you didn't mention was, our food sources. I've been a farmer all my life, and agriculture has turned into a chemical. From the time you plant your seed, the seeds are coated with chemicals. There's herbicide, everything. The ground has been loaded over the last 50 years with just all kinds of chemicals. And then the food gets processed, more chemicals. And so it's no wonder, what is 1 out of 3 people are going to end up with cancer nowadays, something like that? Mm-hmm. No wonder. And then the third thing that I have thought about is, our deficit historically, as I said, I was a farmer. Most farmers have operating loans. You got to go to the bank, borrow money because, especially nowadays, it's turned into an extraordinarily expensive undertaking to be a farmer. And, a banker is not going to let you get in too far over your head or you're going to be bankrupt. So at least a responsible banker. And yet our government has spent money. There's that thing like a drunken sailor.
Yep.
Say, well, a drunken sailor, when he runs out of money, he has to quit spending. Our government doesn't.
That's right.
And that's irreversible in my book. Between all the illegal aliens, call them what they are, and our fiscal irresponsibility, the government has been on track for decades. I hope I'm wrong. I hope you're wrong. I don't think we are. I think we are headed for a tremendous train wreck.
I agree. And that's kind of basically what we're doing today, is saying to folks, look up, the train's coming. This seems to be irreversible. And all of these things are happening at the same time. 2 or 3, 4 of these, but look at all of them. And that's not even an exhaustive list. Wayne, thank you for the call. Barb, line 3. Barb, thank you for calling in today, Barb.
Thank you, and I'm so happy to be talking to you today, especially with this topic. I wanted to mention Mao's America by Z. Van Fleet.
Yes.
This is a woman who you probably know about.
She was just on my show last week again.
And the book is fabulous, and it outlines exactly what you're saying. She witnessed the revolution in China as a child, and she goes through with examples of how they used Marxist tactics to divide, indoctrinate, deceive, coerce, cancel, subvert, and they used violence. And they weaponized the youth. They separated the youth from the elders. And it all leads to the same thing, loss of freedom and totalitarian rule. And if she's been on quite a bit lately, and I think that everybody's feeling the desperateness of this situation at this time. Again, Mao's America is a fabulous book on Amazon.
Thank you for that. Thank you. It is a fabulous book. She was just on my broadcast last week. You guys remember, I interviewed her for an hour on television from Washington, D.C., from the Museum on Communism. And that's in the vault, too. But I had her on my show last week. Again, you're 100% right. It's an excellent book. Guys, we're also now getting word the last 24 hours that Ed Martin, who is set at this desk, former leader of Phyllis Schlafly's Eagles, who went into the Department of Justice, and our D.C. reporter, Neil McCabe, stopped working for us to go to be his right-hand man in PR, to be his PR radio TV guy. We're now getting word that the district or the Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche, who apparently and reportedly is a registered Democrat through 2024, fired Ed Martin on December 31st and effectively shut down the Weaponization Working Group office. We're getting lots of reports from this. This one also comes from Paul Sperry, who I trust. This is what I'm talking about. President Trump is one man, one administration. They are doing everything they can to stop him from being successful. They're waiting him out. And in the meantime, all of these things are in motion and they're in play. Again, this program is not to cause you to fear. It's not to cause anxiety. But I believe the Lord is giving us time and warning signs of what's coming. Prepare physically, prepare spiritually, and get as many of your family and friends to prepare for what's coming. I think the signs are all there. Take care. And that's our broadcast on those stations. We're back with WROS out of Jacksonville, Florida, and you here on Worldview Tube. I also would mention this. This is a headline from Newsweek, if it is to be believed. Republicans did not show up in Texas. Election won by Democrats. The Republicans were demoralized. This is part of the process, I believe now, of people that are convincing President Trump to do certain things, to not follow through on certain campaign promises. It is to demoralize the base, going from, hey, we're going to cut housing prices so young people can have part of the American dream, to we're going to make a weak dollar and keep prices of homes high. Regardless of where you feel on that one, where you land on that one, that's not the issue as much as it is demoralizing many of the young people that turned out in big numbers to help elect him. And when you pull back on deporting people, which the polls show are very much, the people are very supportive of that, both Republicans and Democrats, by the way, and you appear to crumble under Tim Walz and those guys in Minnesota, this is all, again, very demoralizing. Many of the things that are being done, the fumbling of the Epstein files by Pam Bondi, no one has been arrested or charged in so many of the scandals. Now, we hear that that's coming, but we're always told that there's big thing. John Solomon is talking about some big case that's being put together. But at some point, people can't live on promises. They need to see action, and they become demoralized. And this, of course, is going to be the problem for the midterms. Okay. Let's see. What else do we have here? I guess the only other issue I would bring up here is I'm going to go back to the lab found in Vegas. The FBI raided an illegal biological laboratory in Las Vegas inside a locked garage. Investigators found multiple refrigerators containing vials of unknown liquids described as potential biological and hazardous material, along with gallon-sized containers of unidentified substances, a centrifuge, and other lab equipment, authorities said. Folks, this is what some have described as the poor man's nuclear weapon. Biological warfare is the poor man's nuclear weapon. Now, we've done extensive programs on this with Gordon Chang, who was just on the broadcast again the other night. And the lab that was found by an astute worker who saw an extension cord running out from beneath a garage door at a storage locker. And voila, you have all these very deadly pathogens that are found in refrigerators and freezers in this garage. And as we've covered that, what have we said? These are everywhere. These are all over the country. Now, here is another one. Apparently, there were more than 1,000 samples that were collected and sent to an FBI laboratory for testing. Do you think we'll ever find out what was really there? And then it makes reference to the 2023 Redley, California, where authorities say a Chinese national who remains in federal custody and has pled not guilty was arrested in connection with an illegal laboratory. According to a federal report by the Select Committee on the Chinese Communist Party, officials observed blood, tissue, and other bodily fluid samples inside the Redley Biolab, along with thousands of vials containing unlabeled fluids and suspected biological material, raising concerns that may have contained dangerous pathogens. Some of the vials were labeled with the pathogen names in English and Mandarin. So the question is, are we getting now again more warning signs that Americans should prepare for a biological attack in our border? I don't, again, say this to cause fear and anxiety, but to warn you that you need to prepare. You need to be self-sufficient as much as you can with your food. You need to have the ability to tape off like they did in Israel for so many years. As Jimmy DeYoung, who would report for us for so long, he would tape off rooms with plastic and duct tape. And they would dive into their rooms with their gas masks when the sirens would go off. And that was when Saddam Hussein was threatening to use biological warfare on missiles against them. But do you have what you need to seal off one room? Do you have what you need should there be these kind of problems? We just have seen here in the Mid-South the absolute lack of preparedness by people. The immaturity, the silliness, the hedonism, all about entertainment, football, sports, traveling, this very expensive homes, but not a dollar spent on power. No backup, no nothing. $2-3 million homes in Nashville, and the social media people are complaining. They're having to abandon their 40-degree homes and go to hotels they can find with power. You can build a $2-3 million home, but you can't buy a generator, a solar generator, an LP generator, a gas generator. Americans had better prepare. The signs are here. We need to prepare spiritually first and foremost. May God save America. Take care.